Hello, if you've been tuning into Days of Our Lives lately, you've probably noticed that things are heating up in Salem. Two characters, Sophia and Doug III, have gotten themselves tangled in a mess of lies and deception. At first, their fibs might seem small or even harmless, but as anyone who's watched this show for a while knows, little lies have a way of turning into big trouble. In this week's episodes, Sophia and Doug III's choices are setting the stage for some serious drama and heartache down the road. Let's take a closer look at what they've done, why they did it, and how it's all likely to blow up in their faces. For those who might be new to Days of Our Lives, it's a soap opera that's been entertaining folks since 1965. It's full of twists, turns, and characters you can't help but root for, or sometimes shake your head at. Sophia is one of the newer faces in town, part of a younger crowd dealing with modern-day problems like love and family. Doug III, though, comes from the Horton family, a group known for their good hearts and strong values. That's what makes his actions so surprising. Then there's Johnny and Chanel, a couple trying to build a life together despite some wild challenges, like Johnny once being possessed by the devil. Yes, strange things happen in Salem, and that's part of what keeps us coming back. How Sophia's lies are stirring up trouble. Sophia's story is one that pulls at the heartstrings. She's a young woman who found herself expecting a baby with Tate, and now she's trying to do what's best for her little one. She's hoping Johnny and Chanel, a couple she trusts, can adopt the child. There's just one big hurdle: Sophia's mother, Amy Choi, has to agree to the plan. Mrs. Choi is a traditional lady, deeply tied to her Korean church, and she'd likely want any family raising her grandchild to share those same religious values. Trouble is, Johnny and Chanel don't belong to the church, or any church, for that matter. They're not religious at all. So, Sophia hatched a plan. She decided to tell her mother a few harmless lies to make Johnny and Chanel sound like the perfect fit. Maybe she'd say they're regular churchgoers or that they live by strong Christian principles. It seemed like a simple way to smooth things over. But as we've seen time and again in Salem, lies, even the small ones, rarely stay simple. Picture this: Johnny and Chanel are sitting down to lunch with Mrs. Choi, trying to win her over. They'll have to play along with Sophia's story, nodding and smiling as they talk about their imaginary church life. Chanel might even say she sings in the choir, though she's never held a hymn book in her life. It's a tall order, and they'll need to be convincing. But Mrs. Choi isn't someone who's easily fooled. She's sharp, and if something feels off, she's likely to ask questions, tough ones that Johnny and Chanel might not be ready to answer. What happens if Mrs. Choi starts digging? She might call the church they claim to attend, only to find out they're not on the member list. Or worse, she could hear whispers about Johnny and Chanel's rocky marriage, because, let's face it, they've had their share of ups and downs lately. And then there's the big skeleton in Johnny's closet, that time he was possessed by the devil. It sounds outlandish, but in Salem, it's the kind of thing that gets around. If Mrs. Choi catches wind of that, she might slam the brakes on the adoption faster than you can say amen. Sophia's heart is in the right place, she just wants her baby to have a loving home. But by bending the truth, she's putting everything at risk. If her mother finds out she's been lied to, she might say no to the adoption altogether. Sophia could lose her mother's trust, and Johnny and Chanel might feel betrayed too. It's a shaky house of cards, and one wrong move could bring it all tumbling down. How Doug III's deception is digging a deeper hole now. Let's turn to Doug III. If you've been following his story, you might have felt a pang of disappointment this week. Doug III comes from the Horton family, a name that's stood for honesty and decency in Salem for generations. So when we learned he stole a time capsule necklace, it was a shock. What's worse, instead of owning up to it, he's been piling on more lies to cover his tracks. It all came to a head when Julie, his relative, got a letter from her brother, Stephen Olson. Stephen swore he didn't take the necklace, and Julie believed him. You'd think that might push Doug 3 to come clean, but instead, he doubled down. He started asking Julie if she suspected anyone else, even bringing up how some family members had pointed fingers at him. Julie, being the kind soul she is, told him she didn't think he'd do such a thing. But you have to wonder, did his nervous chatter plant a seed of doubt in her mind? Doug 3's lies are like quicksand, the more he struggles, the deeper he sinks. He can't buy the necklace back or undo what he's done without telling the truth. And the longer he waits, the harder it'll be when the truth finally comes out, because it always does in Salem. Imagine Julie finding a clue, maybe a receipt or a pawn shop ticket, that ties Doug 3 to the theft. She'd be heartbroken, confronting him with tears in her eyes. He'd have to decide, confess and beg forgiveness, or keep lying and risk losing her trust forever. It could get even messier. What if the police get involved? Stealing isn't just a family matter, it's a crime. Doug 3 could find himself in handcuffs, bringing shame not just to himself but to the whole Horton clan. His good name, something the Hortons have always prided themselves on, would take a hit. It's a steep price to pay for a necklace, and all because he didn't have the courage to face the music sooner. What could happen next? Both Sophia and Doug 3 are on a collision course with the truth, and the fallout could be dramatic. Let's imagine how it might play out. For Sophia, picture Mrs. Choi growing suspicious at that lunch. She asks Johnny about his favorite Bible verse, and he stumbles, muttering something vague. Later, she visits the church they mentioned and finds no record of them. Furious, she storms back to Sophia, demanding answers. The adoption plan crumbles, and Sophia's left pleading with a mother who feels betrayed. Or maybe Mrs. Choi digs into Johnny's past and uncovers that demonic possession story. She'd likely see it as a sign he's unfit to raise her grandchild, no matter how much he's changed. For Doug 3, the unraveling could be just as tense. Maybe Julie notices he's avoiding her or acting strange about the necklace. She starts asking around, and someone mentions seeing Doug 3 near a pawn shop. When she confronts him, he panics, spinning another wild tale. But Julie's no fool, she sees through it, and the family gathers for an emotional showdown. Or perhaps the police beat her to it, showing up at the Horton house with questions Doug 3 can't dodge. In both cases, the consequences could ripple out. Sophia might lose her chance to give her baby the home she dreamed of, and her ties with her mother and friends could fray. Doug 3 risks his family's love, his freedom, and his place in Salem. Legal troubles could even creep in. Lying about an adoption or stealing a necklace isn't just personal, it could land them in court. A lesson we can all take to heart. Soap operas like Days of Our Lives love to dive into the messes people make with lies, and there's a reason for that. These stories are exciting, sure, but they also hold up a mirror to our own lives. Sophia and Doug 3's troubles remind us that bending the truth might feel like an easy fix, but it's a shaky foundation that's bound to crack. Sophia's fibs come from a good place, she wants her baby to have a bright future. But by hiding the truth, she's gambling with something precious. Doug 3's lies stem from fear and guilt, and instead of facing his mistake, he's making it worse. We've all been tempted to dodge a tough conversation or cover up a slip-up, haven't we? Yet, as these two are about to learn, honesty, hard as it can be, is usually the better path. Wrapping it up as we head past February 28th, Days of Our Lives is gearing up for some fireworks. Sophia and Doug 3's little lies are ticking time bombs, and when they go off, expect tears, arguments, and maybe a few gasps. Will Sophia's adoption dream survive her mother's scrutiny? Can Doug 3 salvage his family's trust before it's too late? We'll have to keep watching to find out, but one thing's for sure, in Salem, the truth has a way of breaking free, no matter how hard you try to bury it. What do you think of Sophia and Doug 3's tangled webs? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, we'd love to hear how you see this playing out. Thanks for watching our channel, goodbye and see you later.